You're listening to The Talk is Jeep podcast without Aldrich and Tom Chartrand. Two friends trying to live their best Jeep life.
Hello, Tom. How you doing?
Hey, doing okay, Art. Not living my best Jeep life right now, I'll tell you.
No, I was thinking about that today. This year's not been a good Jeep life year for both of us. No.
Well, there's been so much rain, number
Well,
one.
that's only part of the problem. Rain usually makes for a
true.
better Jeep life. There's just been life in the way of your Jeep life and my Jeep life.
There's been life in the way. There's been rain in the way of getting out on the beach. And that's how I do most of my Jeeping. But life has gotten in the way of our little excursions, that's for sure.
Yeah, so we didn't even get together this year for any Jeep Jamborees. We've
Right.
seen each other, but just not Jeeping. I enjoy those trips, those adventures. I mean, I miss them even when I just get out for a day or two somewhere.
Absolutely.
I didn't even do my local New York Catskill Mountain Jeep Jamboree because I was conflicted with work, and
Right.
I had two scheduled. I actually lost my deposit on both of the events, New York and New Jersey, just because these jobs came in and it was too much.
Absolutely. And, work sometimes is getting in the way of the fun that we have. And, but on the bright side, it saved a little money on the registrations for my side, and also saved some of the damage funds that need to be saved up for after the Jamboree. So
I'm not seeing the bright side there. Where's the bright side? No new equipment, no adventures.
well, Julius will make it to 2024 now. I know that.
Okay. I had a lot of, stuff done to my Jeep, just, new tires and things in preparation for events. And it's one of the regrets I have about living where I live is that there is nowhere easily accessible for legal
Right.
off-road adventures.
No, you've got to traverse a lot of highway to get to some of those exciting ones. And, there's so many now. It's like, it's unbelievable the menu that's out there for jamborees.
I mean, I wish I lived in like Colorado or, Utah
Right.
sometimes, somewhere you could just go out and just get on a trail pretty easy. Like for me, it's at least 3.5 hour drive, and then if I'm getting old, so going down and back in one day is, hurts my
Not
back.
preferable. Absolutely. I mean, for me, the beach is my main, source of riding, and we didn't have it this year. We run into some of these ecological, environmental issues where there's the plovers that get in the way of the trail. And so the beach that I normally go to was closed into August of this year. And then we had a lot of jobs and we had a lot of things happen. And so those weekends were really trimmed pretty thin to be able to enjoy that kind of jeeping that I typically do. The jamborees are more of a treat, to be able to get out and, push the Jeep where I'm not used to pushing it.
The Jamborees are a treat, and I have a feeling a lot of people that might be listening, don't do the Jamborees for one reason or another. We should really to get some audience feedback on that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've talked to some people casually who have Jeeps and are afraid of, breaking their Jeep or not knowing what to do. I think the Jeep
Right.
Jamborees, like you said, it's an adventure. It's somewhat safe because you're with people who can get you out of trouble.
Right.
I've been on some local group rides where the person leading the group is unfortunately clueless about how to do recoveries or what people are really capable of or how difficult the trail is for the
Right.
for the rigs in the group. So those are things that are all gone with the Jeep Jamboree, which is why I enjoy them. And
Well, you take it for granted that the people that are your leaders and everything on the jamborees, they can help you get out of a situation. And so you've got that comfort level, which is really good. I'm look at myself as not a novice, but what do you call it? The green
Greenhorn.
circle skier,
Greenhorn.
Yeah.
No,
But I like the easy ones. I don't like to put my Jeep in too much of a harm's way.
right. Anyway, my point was that I think a lot of people
Yeah.
don't appreciate some of the benefits, or they're not aware of maybe the benefits of a Jeep Jamboree or whatnot. But
Right.
in talking about the Jeep Jamborees, the reason it's on my mind is that they just released the schedule for 24.
Right.
And there's some surprises, some twists in the schedule, because normally we start talking about, what our plan would be, what events we might want to do together, what we can do with the wives, where we're going to fit the Jeep adventure
How we're going to
in.
plan that in.
Right.
Exactly.
So I looked at the calendar, I looked at the list, and I was surprised. There's really a significant change this year in the way that Jeep Jamboree is approaching the events, and they're going international.
Yes. And excitingly international. But with that comes a whole host of other considerations as
Oh,
well,
my
right?
my head is exploding with questions, but I
Yeah.
started to I started to look at some of because the information's been slow to come out, and I would say there's a
Right.
lot of things that are not answered, even in the most recent documentation that I've seen from Jeep Jamboree.
Hmm.
So my hope is that maybe we can get them on soon to answer some of the questions. Maybe get the fans involved. Maybe we'll do it as a Facebook Live or YouTube Live, and we'll have audience participation in that
Well, it would
podcast.
be fascinating too to just find out what pushed it over that edge. I- the jamborees have always been pretty much U.S. based, and so what led them to this level? Was it interest? Was it, you know, stretching things out? Was it riders? I'd love to know more about
Yeah.
the thought process that went behind it.
Agreed. That would be
Yeah.
a good. So I'm going to pursue that for the next podcast. But for this podcast, I thought we would just go through, share our sort of discussion and back and forth about how we decide which events we might want to do. And
Yeah.
then, it might lead to some questions, and then we could use those for something, to send over to Jeep and be
I
like,
love it.
what's up? So there's these what they call signature trips or signature jamborees.
Right.
And then there's also a few little things, like, for one, an event that we've done, Killington,
Hmm.
is not on the schedule this year. It's just missing. Where did it go?
Right.
I don't know. It's missing.
Well, did they get washed out in the summer's bad weather or something worse? Who
Right.
knows?
I don't know. And so
Right.
that's one event that is easy for both of us to get to. It's sort of
Correct.
convenient, doesn't require a 12-hour drive. So unfortunately, that one is off the table.
Right. The 12-hour drive you're referring to was Drummond, which was a fantastic trip
I
in
think
in your Jeep.
yes, Drummond Island was good. And we also did the Tennessee Mountains, which was about 11-hour drive.
That was fun. That was
And
a blast.
and also pushing the limits of what I'm willing to do in my two-door Wrangler at this point in my life. So there are a number of new international things. This was one that caught my eye. Iceland, I've never been to, but it's on sort of my top 20 bucket list of places to go.
Absolutely.
It's similar in climate to a job that we do in Alaska.
Right.
So it would be fun to do this. Let's just step through some of the stuff. They're calling it the Snow Desert.
Ooh, so you'd be mushing something other than dogs.
Now, one of the first questions that I had, and then they clarified it in some of the documentation, but everyone always asks, well, how do I get my Jeep over to Iceland?
That's just it.
And the question is really not a question. You don't. It would take too long or too much money or both, I suppose. So they provide Jeep Jamboree is providing Jeeps for this trip.
So they have them there, they've sourced them, and
I don't
I
know.
mean, number one, that's enticing to not have to put my Jeep in harm's way. Now it's about driving more so than taking your Jeep on an adventure.
Yeah, it is. It is a little strange, and it brings up some other questions. But I mean, they
Sure.
show these, beautiful pictures, incredible landscapes. I mean, it looks really, really
How
interesting.
cool to be able to see that and experience it in a Jeep.
Right. I would agree. So some of the questions that I have are things like, well, how many people can they take on this particular adventure? Is it limited to like 10 or 20 or
Right.
5? I don't know. But how many can go? And does everyone get their own Jeep?
Well, that's an excellent question. Does it become we have a limited number of Jeeps and now you're doing a tag team of two, three, four people to a Jeep?
Which I would hope is not the case. But listen to some of these things that they're putting in the disclaimer or the fine print, if you will.
Aha.
So these are what they're providing. They're providing helmets
Okay.
and crampons, which are spikes that go over your shoes so you can walk on the ice.
Okay. That makes sense.
They're giving you radio equipment. There's hotels, so I'm assuming you're not camping on this particular event. 7 nights of accommodations.
Okay.
They're giving you provision of modified Jeep Wrangler and Jeep Gladiators for professional use in heavy terrain. I'm assuming that just means they're giving you Jeeps that are built for this. Now,
Right.
okay,
Right.
this fine print actually spells this out. 7 vehicles for guests, 1 vehicle for Jeep Jam guides, and 1 vehicle for Jeep X guides. I don't know exactly what that X guides mean, but I'm assuming that means
Hmm.
9 Jeeps total. So maybe there's only 9 spots for this
They've
particular.
vetted 9 Jeeps, it looks like, right?
So 7 people can go. I'm just like 7. I think it's per person. The pricing is per person, but it's
Okay.
double occupancy. So I think
Aha.
that basically means you have to either go with 2 people or you're going to get bunked up with somebody in the Jeep
Right.
and perhaps in the it's a good question though. Like if you wanted to go just yourself, would you get a Jeep all to yourself or would they put you in a vehicle with someone else and you'd have to share the driving?
I would assume you would be bunked up, partnering, and it is all to how many people they can get to take part in this. I'm enticed by it because it really is like our Alaska adventures and things that we've already been, used to. Emergency sleeping bags, bunking up with other people. And, it's a very specialized adventure.
Yes. And so, that's one of the questions is how do you handle this? Because the rooming is definitely double occupancy. The question
Right.
is the Jeep also double occupancy? And this Iceland, just to put this in context, the Iceland Odyssey trip is $9,995 per adult. It is based on double occupancy, and they give you the vehicle, but you are responsible for getting yourself to Iceland, and you've got to pay for some meals and your transportation to and from the start and end point of the Jamboree. So they're not getting you from the airport and bringing you to the start of this thing.
You've got to get there.
You've
Holy
basically got to,
moly.
yeah. So it's not cheap. I mean, that's not
No.
a cheap event. It is, like I said, 7 nights, but you have to pay for your dinner. They're giving you lunch and breakfast, I suppose.
Lunch and that's it. No, I think it was just lunch.
Preparation lunch daily. Oh, you're right. So you're only
Lunch
getting
daily. Right.
lunch. You're only getting lunch, and then if there's any excursions, like it sounds like there's an excursion
Right.
to do whale watching and other stuff. So I don't know that you're actually driving the Jeep
all the time,
all the time. Like the events that we've
right?
done, you're in the Jeep,
All day,
8-10 hours of the day. I don't
right?
know that this is that same kind of a jamboree.
Right. It doesn't seem like it. It really doesn't. It's more of an adventure vacation
It is
with
yeah,
Jeeps available.
right,
Yeah.
with some jeeping. This last disclaimer is this intense event takes place in the polar region in midwinter. Personal equipment must be adapted respectfully. This means sturdy and waterproof footwear, blah, blah, blah. Temperatures could go down to minus 30 Celsius, which is, I think, 900 degrees below zero in Fahrenheit. But my math may be wrong. You have to check that.
That's
But
pretty dang cold.
But we know from our Alaska adventure that
Yes.
these temperatures can really be something to be taken seriously.
Absolutely.
So
Yes. Yeah. It's nothing to be taken lightly. And hopefully they underscore that for people taking part in this.
this one
That's the
also
one that piqued my interest.
this one also sounds very cool. I don't know how you say this.
Azores.
Azores. The
Azores, pearls in the Atlantic.
Pearls in the Atlantic. And this trip is
Oh,
they're saying the most beautiful version of a holiday with a Jeep. It's in Portugal. It's in an island area. I mean, it looks incredible. São Miguel is the largest island. The food,
just
I mean,
beautiful.
they're showing pictures of,
Oh,
food
the
and things like
seafood
that.
there
Culinary.
is to die for. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks really good. Again, just judging by some of this itinerary, it doesn't sound like you're going to be jeeping constantly.
Right. It's a vacation with Jeeps.
Yes.
Just beautiful though.
Yeah, it looks incredible. So 7 nights in the best 5-star hotels, including breakfast on this trip.
Oh, there you go.
7 days Jeep rental car, which is a really weird way to say this. They're giving you dinner, lunches, and breakfast. So this trip, I think all your meals are covered.
Yes,
you're
that's what it
getting
looks
you're
like.
getting whale watching, you're getting airport shuttle. So this particular jamboree has everything included except your airfare. Your fuel is not included, which
That's interesting.
again seems odd.
But right. I guess it depends on how much you Jeep. And then when they say Jeep, vehicle, what is that? Is it a Wrangler? Is it a Cherokee? Is it,
Well, that's a good
what?
that's a good question. What are you actually getting? Because one of the trips,
Right.
you're not even getting a Wrangler.
At all?
No,
Really?
I'm gonna get to that. So
Okay.
so airfare, fuel, and alcohol, which for us could be expensive, is not
Yeah.
included in the
It could
trip.
very well be.
Another trip that caught my eye is this French Alps trip.
Ooh.
I mean, the French Alps is right on the border of Italy and France.
Oh,
I
just
mean,
gorgeous.
the scenery. This one seems like it is the most adventurous in terms
Okay.
of like you're
Really?
you're in the mountains, and you get to do you're in the region of Rhone, which has got tremendous wine and
Yeah.
sounds so good, and the scenery looks unbelievable. And then you've got this
Oh,
one
that
and a
looks
half
just
hour
unreal.
drive through the James Bond path in the French mountains. Something from GoldenEye. I mean,
Yeah.
it looks really incredible. But here's the but:
Ooh.
you get to drive a Jeep Compass.
Gotta tell you,
It's almost a deal breaker for me.
to me, it would be.
Yeah.
I can go to the Alps. It doesn't have to be in a Jeep Jamboree,
Yes.
and especially not in a Compass.
Yeah,
That's
I
just
mean it. Now, what they're basically saying is that you have to do a compass because the trails are very narrow, and this is like the best way to do it. We will use the new Jeep Compass, which will give us the possibility to drive the really very narrow passes with enormous serpentines and narrow tunnels. I mean, it almost sounds like they used like a chatbot to write some of this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? My two-door Jeep Wrangler would be able to navigate tight turns, I believe.
How much wider can a Wrangler be than a Compass?
Well, I imagine if people are looking at, with their 35-inch tires or spacers, and that might make things a little more difficult, and they just,
Right, but
you know,
don't forget these are Jeeps that they're specking for us. I mean,
right.
if you spec'd, a fairly stock Rubicon, like I don't think you're going to have a problem with width,
I
but
wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think so at all.
it
But you can fit four people in a Compass easily.
again, this is the question, like, okay, are you going to be giving people individual vehicles for their group, or are they going to be, bunched up together?
Right.
And this trip includes 7 nights, 2 guides, lunch on the route, beverages, probably not alcoholic, of course, radios,
Hopefully some
permit
wine.
fees, the Jeep Compass, insurance, blah, blah, blah. And
Right.
then you get some hotels, 1 night here, 3 nights here, 3 nights, and blah, blah, blah. Fuel costs, again, not included. Dinner, not included. And then your
Uh,
transportation is not included. So that trip, the Alpine trip, is $7,000 per person. The
Absolutely.
Azores trip is $7,500 per person.
Wow.
So
Wow.
this is another one that caught my eye, another signature Jeep trip. This one is the Moab Odyssey.
The Moab. Now we're talking.
I've been dying to go to Moab since I was, a young mountain biker, and
Right.
never did get to go. I would love to go with my Jeep. We've talked about this. One of the problems in doing a trip like this for us, we're on the East Coast, it's a long drive.
Yeah. Yeah. The trip to Michigan on its own was a cumbersome journey. This would be an interesting ride, if that. But I know a lot of people transport their Jeeps.
They do, but that's also a big expense. I mean, unless you have a
For sure.
trailer, which I don't, and a tow vehicle. So,
This is true.
but this trip has a twist as well. So there's 2 things about this trip that are different than a normal Jeep Jamboree. One, they're providing you the Jeeps.
Okay.
So that's a benefit, I think, to me. The second is that this one is being led by I'll use the term celebrity because I don't have a better
Okay.
word to describe him. Fred Williams, he's got a YouTube channel. He used to be on Motor Trend TV. He did a show called Dirt Daily on YouTube. He had another show, which I can't remember the name of now, when it was on Motor Trend. Him and Dirthead Dave, they would build these rigs and have all these
Okay.
adventures, and it's just great. He's a true Jeep guy. He knows how to do lots of mechanical things, but he's just got a really good way about him, and I think that would be a fun trip
Right.
to
Right. It would be
do.
fun. That
It-
would be something that you'd get something from.
and this is like I think a 4-day wheeling trip. I think you wheel, or maybe you wheel 3 days. You wheel Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then it's
Okay.
5 days total. The only problem for me with this trip is that the time of year, which is October for this one,
Typically
tends
a
to
very
be
busy one, right?
busy for me. So I'd have to think about whether I could, if this was going to be like the one I was going to do, I could probably make it work, but
Right.
it wouldn't be as desirable. But it's probably a good time of year to go.
And there's some good real trails. That looks pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean Moab would be an
Oh,
awesome trip.
good
And
Lord.
again, like the benefit of not, I mean, I don't know if it's a benefit. In this case, I probably would appreciate not having to drive my Jeep out to Utah, though I think it would be great to wheel my Jeep in Utah.
Is that an option?
I don't know. I don't know if it is. I don't think
More
it is.
questions.
Yeah, more questions. You get some accommodations. It says resort and hoodoo. I'm not sure what that is. Then they have one in Dubai.
Oh my.
And this one actually falls over
Happy New Year.
New Year,
Yeah.
which would actually be kind of fun. It's a dead time for me. And I'm
Right.
not a big fan of New Year's Eve gatherings for the most part. So this has some interest. And I've never been to Dubai. It's a place that I would like to see. It seems
Holy moly.
very, very sandy.
Yeah.
But I mean, the city
Price
of Dubai
TBD.
is, the city of Dubai is spectacular.
Right.
But
That's
you have
just otherworldly.
it looks like this one has a number of little adventures during the day, and you could probably come back to the hotel. And
Right.
then, there's other things to do. So if you go like with your wife and she doesn't want to go wheel, or you go with your husband and he doesn't want to wheel, however it may be, like there's other stuff it sounds like to do, but it doesn't seem like it's straight wheeling. But you do get to spend New Year's Eve in
Ooh. I mean,
Qatar.
just that right there is these are all trips of a lifetime. So it's very un-Jamboree-ish to my first hearing. This is like a Jeep centric vacation. And it looks unbelievable.
Yeah, it does. So the last one that I've sort of cataloged, and this has always been a bucket list trip for me, is the Rubicon Trail.
Rubicon Trail, sure.
And this is another what they're calling signature trips, but this is not in the same league as the other one. And this Rubicon Trail Extreme is $3,000 for the driver, and then $6 and change if you want a second passenger. And this one is a little different because it's basically your Jeep
Right.
on the trail.
Must have 37s. Wow.
Yeah, no, it's Rubicon's pretty intense. You have to have lockers. Did it say 37s? Yes, requires 37s, front and rear lockers, tow points, skid plates, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I have most of that, and I probably could manage 37s if I wanted to do this.
For the trip.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So this one, but this trip is not bring your wife trip for me, because this
Right.
one is all camping.
Starting at sunrise.
Yeah, sunrise, start, camp, and if you look at some of this stuff, but this trip, this would be a great adventure, totally.
Absolutely.
Welcome breakfast, day one bag lunch, farewell lunch are included. You're responsible for all gear, beverages, and 5 meals on the trail. So basically, you got to bring your camping gear, and you have to bring your food and things like that. And
right. This is more of a traditional camping style jamboree.
Right. But unlike I think one of the Rubicon Trail jamborees, they do the cooking stuff and the camp stuff for you. So I don't know I'm not sure how this one is different.
Right.
Maybe it's because it's smaller or something else. It really gives me some pause, because I'm like, oh my God, like some of these sound really great, but there's some things that are a little odd, little off. I would have to hear some more details before I could really make a decision. But here's the problem.
And commit.
The problem is, as you know, December, they open up this registration. So on Monday, December 4th, they open up the schedule for registration. And that is, it's basically 5 days that they're going to start to sell these trips, from the 4th to the 8th. and some of them are going to be, sold out very quickly.
Absolutely.
So there's not a ton of time. We've basically got a month to figure out if we want to do any of these and what the details are, even before
What that looks like.
And unfortunately for me and somewhat for you, I don't know the work schedule yet for next year.
I know that usually comes a little bit later.
It usually comes in January, and
Oh, that's right. Yes.
I usually get the schedule for all of 24 in January for all of the travel work that we do together. And
Right.
I can't, it's really hard to deviate from that, especially it's one thing if it's like a day or two. It's another thing if it's like, I'm going to be gone for a chunk of time, because sometimes we have back-to-back events or back-to-back weeks. It would be very
Right.
easy for one of these, 8-day international trips
fall over
two different work events, which would be troublesome.
You can think about the times when we may not typically have a lot of events and try to look for something that fits that bag.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So these are the things that have been on my mind. I've been like, really like going like from highs and lows, like, oh, this sounds great. Oh, Jeep Compass.
Oh,
no.
Exactly.
So what I'm hoping to do is I'm going to reach out to the people at Jeep Jamboree. I'm going to see if we can get them on the podcast, see if we
that'd be
can
great.
get some answers to these questions, maybe get some feedback from other people, see what they're thinking.
Right.
And also, think about some of the logistics. I want to know how they're going to pull off some of these logistics, because it's challenging. Very
What's
challenging.
in there? And what are we going to drive? I'm not interested in a Compass.
Yes. Hopefully a to be continued conversation on this podcast.
Right.
A
teaser.
I have ribs on the smoker that I have to get back to, unfortunately. But for Talk is Jeep, I'm Art.
I'm Tom. Looking forward to 24.
We'll see you next time.